The village in it with a map and a plan. No place too tiny for this determined man. Crossing the counties one by one, you'll see in every English corner a bit of history.
Welcome back to Charnwood again, everybody. It's quite muggy at the moment, so it's serious business. The jumper has gone, the trousers have gone, I'm down to my shorts and my t-shirt. It's starting to get warmer here in the UK this year. Miracle. Now, I'm beginning this one on a lane that's got an interesting name. This is New Zealand Lane, and I don't know whether it actually has anything to do with the country that you can find in the Southern Hemisphere, but we'll soon find out. This is the parish of Queniborough. Queniborough, Queen's Fort. Next up in Charnwood, we have a much bigger village to cover. Yesterday we got our first look at the Queniborough Brook as it passes through South Crowson. This is the village it's named after, the enormous Queniborough itself. This is 2.5 miles northeast of Syston and 7.5 miles northeast of Leicester. It's got just under 1,000 houses, making this much more of a Leicester suburb than an actual village, despite the fact it's not actually connected to the city. Nonetheless, it still forms part of the Leicester urban area due to its proximity. The place name Queniborough first appears in the Domesday Book, written as Quenburg. It's listed as Quenburg in records dated 1125, and by 1236 it was known as Queningburg. The name is thought to be Old English, deriving from Quainburg, meaning the Queen's Manor or Fort. There are two distinctive sections to this place. The western part of the village is a vast expanse of post-war housing. It's literally a sea of residential property that almost joins the place to Syston. The east of Queniborough is much older and is laid out in a linear fashion along Main Street, with a mixture of houses dating from between the 16th and the 20th centuries. Some of them are thatched. So, as you might expect, most of the good stuff here is in that older part, but this walk will aim to take in both bits of Queniborough. To the south, there's a massive sports complex, one of the biggest in the county of Leicestershire. There's a lot to cover in this one. Best foot forward then, folks. Here we go, around another Charnwood village. We begin our walk on a long straight road called New Zealand Lane, which is off the main road to Melton Mowbray. Now, I have no idea how this road gets its name, but it was definitely here by 1903. It was shown on an OS map of that time as a brand new development by the name of New Queniborough. Let's head on to Melton Road. Queniborough sits at the edge of the Reek Valley. It's a gateway to an area of relatively undeveloped landscape known as High Leicestershire. The immediate landscape is quite flat, with the hills rising gently around it on three sides. In 1801, John Nichols described the village being in a fine plain continued about half a mile from the Melton Turnpike. This road was the Melton Turnpike, which ran through what was a very rural area. Maps of the early 19th century show Queniborough and neighbouring Syston to be more or less similar in size. However, it seems that Queniborough was bypassed by all the major advances in transport. In those times, the main village was a long way from where we are now. When the railways came along in 1846, there was no local station for Queniborough. Syston became a town and Queniborough stayed as a village. Queniborough remained as an agricultural village well into the second half of the 20th century, in fact, and that's when rapid expansion occurred, infilling the area between the old village and the Melton Turnpike. Now, the western end of Queniborough is a vast expanse of housing. Anyone who was around in the 1850s wouldn't recognise the place now if they were somehow able to come back and see it. Let's have a look at some of the features of this western end today. Off Rearsby Road there's a football ground, and this place hosts to Queniborough FC. The club have several teams, both junior and senior, that compete in local leagues. This is a village that has gained something of a sporting reputation locally. As well as football, both cricket and rugby are very important to Queniborough, as we'll see later. So that's a nice little football field, but let me tell you, in terms of sporting facilities here in Queniborough, you ain't seen nothing yet. There's loads more to speak of, but they're all to the south of the village, and it's a long, long, long way away yet. Our next job is to head for the village hall. It's down here. At the same end of Queniborough stands a village hall completed in 1973. This is used for things like keep fit classes, sporting activities such as badminton, and for a preschool playgroup. It's a key part of Queniborough life, and a building the place simply would not be without. The local scout group have their own hut, and that's next. To get to the hut we have to turn onto Queniborough Road. This is the main street that links the old part of the village to Melton Road, and therefore provides it with access to Syston, the A607 and the A46. That's a good thing in theory, but you wouldn't believe the amount of trouble it causes. Because of this arrangement, vehicles often use this road as a shortcut to get between the A607 and some of the villages deeper into Charnwood. There have been several near misses here involving school children and HGVs, and parked cars only add to the problem. It's not exactly ideal. This is the Queniborough Scout Group's new hall, built in 2021 to replace a condemned building that they used beforehand, which stood on this very same site. This is used not just by the Scouts, but also by the local community as a whole. The hall was designed to be fully accessible, affordable, and low maintenance. Job done, I reckon. A bit further down the road we have the Methodist Church. This chapel originated as a primitive Methodist building. It opened in the year 1900 with just 2 members, both widows. Its pulpit was the gift of Sir Maurice Levy, an MP who lived at the Coppice, elsewhere in the village. It's said that the gift was prompted by his party leader, David Lloyd George, who after spending a weekend at the Coppice had a desire to attend a service in the nearest nonconformist place of worship. He was taken by his host to this newly opened Methodist chapel, which at the time was without a pulpit. When it celebrated its 75th anniversary, the membership was its strongest ever, but by the early 2010s, the congregation had dwindled to just a few. In 2012, the chapel closed, with its remaining members transferring to Syston. The building remained in use for a while, often as a venue for village meetings. In 2017, there were plans to convert it into a house, and it seems those have now been followed through. Okay, some interesting buildings so far, and you'll have also clocked, I'm sure, that this road is quite busy. Traffic flying up and down it all the time, basically. But we are going to move away from this road eventually, but it is the main road through the village, and we will be on it for a long time yet. Behind me, we have the next landmark. Now, this is the local school. As you can probably tell, it's quite a big one. Let's talk about this next. On the corner of Coppice Lane is the current Queniborough Primary School. I say current school because this building has only been here since the 1970s. Before this existed, there was a junior school, also built on Coppice Lane in September 1954. Before that, Queniborough's original school was located in the older part of the village, a lot further south. That one was built in the 1840s, and although it's not a school anymore, it's still in use. We'll check it out in a bit. Behind the school we have a huge recreation ground with a play park, a tennis court and a basketball court. This is known as King George's Field because yet again we're in another village that established one in memory of King George V. In case you're new to the channel or you've forgotten about them, here's a recap. King George's Fields were set up to provide and protect valuable open spaces for public use, particularly for children and young people. They're now protected in perpetuity by a charitable trust called the King George's Fields Foundation. It was established in 1936 after the death of the man himself. The foundations support the legal protection of almost 500 of these fields across the UK, a testament to the King's passion for accessible green spaces. Elsewhere on Coppice Lane is the Grade 2 listed Queniborough Old Hall. This is a large two-storey country house built between 1675 and 1676. Unusually for that time period, it's made of brick and has Swithland slate roofs. It was originally H-shaped in plan. Doubtless this would have once been the home of someone important. The thing is, I've got no idea who. Note too that this is the Old Hall. Queniborough also has a newer hall which is on Main Street. That's much different to this. It was built in the 1820s and is now a block of flats. Okay, the landscape is now starting to change. If you look here, you can see some buildings which look several centuries older than the stuff we've seen so far. There's a good reason for that, because this is the oldest part of Queniborough village. There is a discernible sort of gap between the two bits, the new bit and the old bit, and you could say the boundary is kind of Coppice Lane or potentially the school. Now this is going to be the best part of this walk by far, because there's loads to talk about down here. We've got a couple of pubs, we've got a butcher shop, we've got the church, loads of other things as well. Let's go. This here is Clark's Butchers. Established in 1982, Clark's of Queniborough is one of the prettiest traditional independent village butchers you'll find across the nation. Originally a butcher's, this has expanded now into a deli as well. Family run, this sells award-winning homemade pork pies, including a lovely caramelised onion chutney and Stilton version. Clark's also sell Stilton cheese, local meat and much more. In 1988, Clark's expanded into making and selling ready meals, which quickly gained popularity. Now, their meals are sold in various village stores, farm shops, and even internationally. The Clark family use locally reared and grown produce in their ready meals, aiming to be different from mass production. A lot of the houses along here are thatched, including at least one that dates back to the 15th century. It's been used variously as an inn, a blacksmith's and a cycle repair shop. In the early part of the 20th century, Main Street even boasted its own petrol pump. There's no petrol available here today, but the old part of the village still has a few shops and facilities. Now you see this row of cottages here, that's going to become important in a few moments' time. That's 22 to 28 Main Street. At one time, the old village boasted a minimum of 7 pubs. Today, only 2 remain. They are the Horse and Groom and the Britannia Inn, both in the centre of the old part of the village. Next door to the Horse and Groom is the Queniborough branch of the British Legion, which has a bar and a hall. Here's that, before we get to the pub itself. Okay, now we are definitely in the centre of the old village. There's all sorts of things here. We've got 2 pubs. We've got the Horse and Groom, which you can just about see, maybe. I'm not even sure if you can see it. Can you see it? No, you can't. It's there. That's the Horse and Groom, this building here. We'll talk about that in a second. Got another pub over there called the Britannia. There's an old school building that's behind these over there, down this little lane. And there's a few other bits and bobs in this centre too. Loads to talk about. So we better get on with this, haven't we? Not a lot is known about the Horse and Groom, but I did cobble together a few bits. It was historically owned by All Saints Brewery of Leicester, which was taken over by Ind Coop in 1929. It therefore became an Ind Coop Allsop house. It was built in 1805 and remains today a traditional country pub and restaurant. Behind the Horse and Groom is the old school, the one that predated the new one on Coppice Lane. This isn't the first school Queniborough ever had. That honour was held by a very small building that was designed only for children whose parents worked on the Queniborough Hall estate. Numbers 22 to 28 Main Street were built between 1790 and 1810 as estate workers' cottages, and the schoolmaster lived at number 28. The row is still occupied today. There was no school here open to ordinary village children until this came along in 1847. This was a free school from the outset, and it's still in use. It now holds a small swimming pool for the use of the modern school on Coppice Lane. The Britannia Inn is the other pub here. This was originally a gentleman's farmhouse and was converted into an inn sometime during the 19th century. It served the local community ever since, providing a watering hole for estate workers and men who made a living in some nearby quarries. There was also a gunpowder factory close by, so those lads would have used this too. The farmhouse was built approximately 500 years ago. There have been recent changes in ownership. The latest new team took over with the goal of revitalising the pub. The Britannia is now a rustic, smart gastropub, aiming to continue being a vibrant part of the Queniborough community. Approximately a century ago, a tame bear was kept in the garden of the Britannia. Her name was Fanny, and although generally harmless, legend has it her owners regularly had to chase her around the village because her favourite thing to do was escape. I don't know about you, but if I saw a bear wandering around, I wouldn't be chasing it, I'd be running in the other direction. Fast. Now, sometimes when it comes to researching what things used to be, it can be quite a challenge because you can't always find what a building's previous purpose was. A good example of that is village shops, because unless you sort of know that a place was a shop, you're kind of guessing. Well, here, this building used to be a shop. There's a plaque on the wall there that says Gyrobank Leicestershire Village Shop Competition 1987 winner. So this would have been the shop. Sometimes there are clues. Okay, it's the church next. Now we come to the parish church of St Mary, which has, according to the architectural historian Nicholas Pevsner, one of the finest spires in the whole of Leicestershire. We haven't seen them all yet, I grant you, but I trust his judgment, and it's not bad as spires go, you know. St Mary's is a fine Gothic structure with a 13th century tower, and that spire rises to a height of 162 feet. It contains 6 bells, 4 of which date back to 1619. The church also has a beautifully local carved wooden screen and a pulpit made from old oak church pews. The churchyard contains some war graves, including those of a Royal Field Artillery soldier that served in World War I and an airman from World War II. The church is part of the FOS team, which comprises St Mary's at Barkby, St Hilda's at East Goscote, Holy Trinity at Throssington, St Botolph's at Ratcliffe-on-the-Reek, St Michael and All Angels at Rearsby, St Peter and St Paul's at Syston, and St Michael and All Angels at Thurmaston. From the church, we've now got to walk cross-country. We're heading for a footpath which takes us back towards the beginning, but on the way, it sweeps past a huge sports complex. Okay, we are finally away from that busy main road and we've got a bit of a trek on our hands now. We're using a footpath you can see behind me here, and this will take us to the south of the village, and this will take in a massive sports complex. Now there are two main sports that are played in this particular part of Queniborough. One of them is rugby, the other one is cricket. Hello. Don't mind me, just passing through. Now the sports complex is private and we can only see it from a distance. It has at least two things of note though. The two main sports played on it are rugby and cricket. Let's start with the cricket club because that has, I reckon, the more interesting bit of history. The cricket club's official name has the initials BS within it. It's formally Queniborough BS Cricket Club. Those two initials are a recognition of its origins. The club is proud to represent the community of Queniborough, but equally they also acknowledge how and why the original club was formed over 50 years ago. It started life as a recreational club for the employees and families of the people who worked at what would become the British Shoe Corporation, hence the BS initials. They were founded in 1958 as Freeman, Hardy and Willis Cricket Club and played initially at Weston Park in Leicester. They would later move to another ground at Scudamore Road near the M1 in the 1970s. Now they're based in Queniborough and changed their name to reflect their new home. The ground here is also used today by the LCS Cricket Academy. On the cricket theme, George Shingler, who was a county cricketer in the late 19th and early 20th centuries, died in Queniborough. Rugby-wise, Queniborough plays host to Syston RFC. They were formed in 1887 by a number of players who lived locally or attended nearby Barrow Grammar School. The club has had various homes over the years. In Syston, their first real home was on Foss Way, where the foundations for the current club were firmly laid. By the late 1960s, the club was beginning to flourish as local schools took to playing rugby and a steady stream of players was assured. The club run 4 senior sides and the first 15 currently play in the 5th tier of the English Rugby Union system. Syston RFC have a history of developing young players, a significant number of whom have gone on to play for Leicester Tigers and for England at full international level. One of them, Paul Dodge, also became England captain. He was a member of the 1980 British Lions squad who toured South Africa. You'll probably have gathered that that's a new estate that you've just seen. That's just to the north of the rugby and the cricket clubs. Those house builders can't resist expansion, can they? We're almost done with this walk. We've got one main landmark left to see, and the rest is all housing. Now we've made our way back to the central crossroads where Barkby Road, Syston Road and Queniborough Road all meet. Here there's a post office and a corner shop, aptly named Crossroads Stores. All that's left now is to make our way back to the start, but there's still a long way to walk. Remember how earlier we mentioned that the western half of Queniborough is a vast expanse of 20th century housing? Well, you ain't even seen the half of it yet. Cue the music. Okay, we are nearly back to the beginning. You can see behind me there the petrol station at the end of New Zealand Lane. I'm just going to have a look on my phone actually on the Strava and see how lengthy a route this has actually been, because it feels like it's a very long distance. Apparently, according to this, 6.38 kilometers so far. That's going to be 6.4 by the time I get back onto New Zealand Lane in a moment. It's taken me just under 2 hours. By far, that's the longest one I've done so far in Leicestershire, but there are going to be bigger, trust me. And that will do us for Queniborough. 2 down and 34 to go in Charnwood. There's going to be plenty more like this on the outskirts of Leicester. I hope you've enjoyed these first two, and I'll be back soon for more. Now, just before I go, remember, this video is part of a huge project to visit every civil parish in England. That's more than 10,000. These routes are pre-planned, and due to time constraints, I can't cover every detail or walk down every street. Please don't complain if this video missed something out. I pronounce names how I choose to. I am very aware that local dialect may vary, and I don't take kindly to criticism about this. You've been warned. It's impossible to know everything too. If this video was terrible, make your own. If you're a regular watcher of The Village Idiot, you're not the only one. If you've got a small business, why not use my videos to advertise it? Leave a comment below if you're interested. And finally, thanks for watching this episode, everybody. Give us a like and a subscribe if you've enjoyed this episode, and share it with your friends and relatives. It all helps to keep this mission going. Until next time, I've been Andy, also known as The Village Idiot, and I'm out.